Hey friends, welcome to today's video. My name's Stephanie and today I'm going to be sharing my first impressions trying Emily Damali. So as you all probably know, I picked up this small haul over Black Friday, which already sounds like forever ago. But yeah, I've always seen Emily Damali on like Instagram, but I've just never tried them out before. So what better time to try some new nail polishes than when they're on sale? So I ended up grabbing two shimmers, a Covert Base coat, which is like their blurring base coat, and then two magnetic polishes. I am sorry that my haul was not really varied in terms of the finishes, also kind of in terms of color as well, because they are pretty similar to each other. But obviously I picked these up because I thought I was going to enjoy them, and I will save more of my thoughts at the end. For now, let's just get into the swatches. So the first polish is Get In Line, and this is a light purple base with a pink to orange to gold to green shifting shimmer. So I found that this one had a bit of a sheer, almost crelly-like formula. It was very even coverage on the first coat. You can just still see a decent amount of nail line because of how light that purple base color is, but it still looks really pretty with how vibrant the shimmer is. The formula was also super smooth and easy to work with. It just applied like butter and just made application so nice. It builds up nicely here on two coats, but it still is a little bit sheer. Personally, I wouldn't mind wearing this shade on two coats, but I was curious to see how much more it would build up in three. So I decided to do that for my swatch. And I would say it's like nearly fully opaque. In certain extreme angles, you can make out a hint of nail line, but I feel like for the most part, if you're looking at your nails head on, you don't really see any nail line. It's just a beautiful, fiery kind of shimmer with that purple base. It is so pretty. And here it is with some adjusted lighting so you can see that shift to gold. I unfortunately couldn't capture the green on camera, but I could see it. The next shade I grabbed is Silent Breath, and this one is also described as a pale purple with that same kind of pink to copper to gold shifting shimmer. So I was kind of surprised to see the website description be very similar to Get In Line, because this one, aside from having pretty much the same shimmer, has a very different base color, where as you can see, it's more of like a magenta or pink leaning color and not really purple, but there actually is this almost duochrome kind of color shift to the actual base. The shimmer still does shift the same way that Get In Line does, where it's like that fiery color head on and then golden green in extreme angles. But I noticed in certain angles of light that the actual base color of this goes from that pinkish color that you see here to a more purple color similar to Get In Line. So basically these are very different head on, but in certain extreme kind of angles they end up looking the same. I still really like this one though. It's a beautiful color and it was pretty much opaque on two coats. Next, I have the Covert Base Coat in shade number 1, and this is pretty much like an opaque, sandy beige kind of color. It honestly just reminded me of the consistency of a cream polish like you would see from OPI or Essie. So it was a little weird to kind of get this full coverage out of a base coat. It just kind of felt like a cream polish, you know? But I ended up getting really great coverage on one coat alone. It's not perfectly even, and I didn't find that this self-leveled the best, but I don't think doing a second coat is necessary. So as far as showing you how this looks, I wanted to do one coat of the Covert Base Coat on my index and middle finger, and then a regular clear kind of base coat on my ring and pinky. And then I have one coat of Get In Line on top of that. So you can see right away, you see so much nail line on my ring and pinky fingers, but then the other two fingers with the Covert Base Coat, it's basically covered up. You see like a hint of it, but I think for doing one coat of the base coat and one coat of the polish, it looks pretty good. Like, I think I definitely would wear it this way, especially if I'm in a rush. But I was curious to see how building up Get In Line in two coats would look, but only on my ring and pinky fingers. Like, would building that up make it look the same as wearing a blurring base coat and one coat of polish? And the answer is like yes and no. In terms of the opacity, I think it's the same, but I feel like the color is slightly different, at least in the shade, because in the sun, it's kind of harder for me to tell it apart apart. Like in the shade, the two fingers without the Covert Base coat looked a little bit darker, but in the sun, they look the same, and if anything, you can just tell that those two are a little bit more sheer. Hopefully that wasn't too hard to follow along, but I basically repeated the same thing with Silent Breath, where again, I have the Covert Base coat on my index and middle finger, and then a clear base coat on my ring and pinky. And I think this was definitely a much more apparent difference, where using the Covert Base almost affects the color of the polish, where it just leans a bit more purple as opposed to that more like strawberry magenta kind of color. So I ended up doing a second coat of Silent Breath on all of my fingers this time, and it pretty much evened out for the most part, but I think in certain angles you still can see a more purple leaning base color on the two fingers that have the Covert Base. If anything, I guess it's more apparent in the shade, because in the sun it kind of all looks the same to me at least. You'll have to let me know if you notice a difference, but yeah, the blurring base coat is cool for covering up your nail line, but I don't love that it kind of might change the color. Anyway, back to these swatches. The next polish that I grabbed is Expert Opinion, and this is one of the two magnetics that I grabbed, and this one is described as a dark blurple nail polish with a silvery purple magnetic shimmer and silver micro hollow flakes. So this is definitely one of those shades that I just don't agree with the description. This is very much a blue polish to me. I do not see any purple in this whatsoever. It's kind of like a denim blue sort of color, and I absolutely love it. I also absolutely loved the formula on this one. As you probably saw on the first swipe alone, it was incredibly opaque to the point that it might pass as a one coater because of how dark it is, but I still ended up doing two for my swatch. I would say the formula of this one really reminded me of the Holo Taco magnetics, which I know might seem like a red flag to some people, but just in the sense that it's very opaque and also doesn't give a great velvet effect. And I would say for the cat eye, it might be even better holding the magnet over your nail. And the last polish that I grabbed is another magnetic, and this one is called Seventh Seal. This one is described as a very dark green polish with a green to blue multi-chrome magnetic effect and gold holographic glitters. So like the other polish, I do not agree with the description of this one. I would say that this is a very dark teal jelly-based polish with an aqua to blue to purple shifting multi-chrome shimmer, but this one still absolutely blew me away. As you saw, the first coat alone was incredibly opaque, even though it did have a little bit of a squishy feel to it. So I think this is another one that could pass as a one coater. This is the second coat. I just accidentally didn't record the process of it. And because this one has a slightly more jelly base, I feel like it magnetized really beautifully, especially with the velvet effect. So yeah, I ended up really loving this one. And here it is with some adjusted lighting, at least on the velvet side, so you can see that shift to purple. So now getting into some comparisons, I wanted to start with Get In Line and quickly showing it next to Shleee Polishes Still Alive, which I also picked up during Black Friday. This has a very similar coppery, fiery shimmer, but the base color is wildly different, so they are not dupes. But a closer color comparison that I thought of afterwards was Mooncat's Take Me to Your Leader, and this is another purple base with this bright, fiery copper to gold shifting shimmer. So these definitely look pretty similar in the bottle, I would say, but the differences are very noticeable on the nail. Get In Line has more of a brighter purple base with more of a reddish pink shimmer head on, and Mooncat's is a little bit of a darker purple with more orange head on. So they're similar vibes, but not dupes. Next, for Silent Breath, I wanted to quickly show this next to Red Eyed Lacquer's Aster, which was a shade that I picked up from HHC a couple of months ago. I thought that these were going to be a bit more similar, but Aster is a lighter pink base with more of a gold sheen head on. Then for Expert Opinion, I actually wanted to show this next to ILNP's Shooting Star because it kind of has a similar silvery denim magnetic shimmer color in like this darker blue base. But I would say that Expert Opinion has an almost metallic feel to it as opposed to how shimmery ILNP is. Not to mention how sheer ILNP is. This is 2 coats of Shooting Star versus 1 of Expert Opinion, so definitely not dupes. And lastly, for 7th Seal, I don't even think I mentioned it before, but the color and especially the formula of that one immediately reminded me of What's Up Nails Polar Light Show from a couple of months ago. It kind of has a similar, very shifty multi-chrome shimmer in like a dark base, but there are very obvious color differences, I would say, so it doesn't make them dupes. 7th Seal is more of a true dark teal color, while Polar Light Show has a black base, and there's more of an apparent green to purple shift in Polar Light Show as well. There's also not as much of that glitter sparkle in Polar Light Show, but still, both are absolutely beautiful, and I love the formulas of both of these. So that wraps up my little haul for Emily Damali. So as always, I would love to know what your thoughts are on the shades that I picked up, whether you have any of them or not, or if you've even tried Emily Damali before. Overall, I do really like them. Like, I enjoyed their finishes and formulas and think they are really great for the most part. I definitely was the most impressed with the two magnetics. Like, they just blew me away. So if you're somebody who loves magnetic polishes, I think that you would really like the magnetics that they have. The shimmers were obviously also super beautiful. You probably remembered I mentioned getting Get In Line because I wanted it to be like a dupe maybe for Cirque's Fata Morgana. So when comparing it to that shade, it doesn't really compare. I think the shimmer in Get In Line is like a little too red or maybe even too strong for being a dupe for Fata Morgana, but obviously it is still absolutely beautiful. Like, I definitely love it on its own, just sadly isn't a dupe. You probably also remember from my Black Friday haul video that I was even a little nervous about getting Silent Breath because seeing them side by side, I was like, oh my god, they're basically the same polish. One is just purple, the other one is like pink, but they have the pretty much same exact shimmer. But on the nail, I'm wearing 2 coats of each. I have Get In Line on these 2 fingers and then Silent Breath on these other 3. And I feel like you can definitely tell like a very apparent difference. So they're not as similar as I thought that they would be, but I'm definitely curious to know if you have a preference between the two. And like I also mentioned in that Black Friday haul video, I was a little bit nervous about trying the Covert Base coat because when I first opened it up, I was like, this is like a fully opaque, almost cream polish. I had never tried a blurring base coat before, so I wasn't really sure what to expect exactly. I knew that they would be more opaque than other kind of sheer polishes, for example, but I wasn't really expecting or ready for the opacity in this shade. So I thought I was a bit undecided on it, but I feel like if anything, I am just maybe a bit unimpressed. I think I would say save your money and not get this kind of base coat because you can just use a light beige cream from OPI or Essie. I mean, granted, this is like a few bucks cheaper. Like, if you already have one of those types of nude beige kind of cream polishes already in your collection, then I don't think something like this is necessary. It could also be that I maybe just grabbed the wrong shade for me. Like, they did have a few different options, and so I'm wondering if maybe some of the other colors might just work better. Maybe I should have gone for a lighter color. So yeah, so far I've only tried this base coat with the 2 shimmers, but I do feel like a little nervous about thinking of trying this base underneath like jelly polishes or other sheer shades. I'm not sure how much I'm gonna like it. So if you have any specific shades that you would want to see this under, just let me know, or just let me know any and all thoughts that you have down below so we can chat about it. But thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.